Anyway, this is just a brief history of Mother City, where it all started. So it's just brief. There are lots of histories and lots of deep stories, and everybody's got a different story to tell. And the one always thinks that their story is better than the other. I'm not part of that. All I'm doing is telling you a version of our history. So, here we go. Come hear the tale of our mother city, of diversity, of hopes and dreams and vast extremes, of how it all began. They say we should celebrate our ancestors and embrace minorities. They tell me to reclaim my identity. I should be proud to say I am. To say I am. But how do you know where you want to go if you don't know where you're from? On the slopes of Table Mountain, that's where our ancestors still roam. Come on up. How do you know where you want to go if you don't know where you're from? 'Cause on the slopes of Ohuhuhuhu, that's where our ancestors today still roam. 2, 3, 4. Come on, see there. Ohuhuhuhu. Come on, see there. Come for there. Come on, see there. Welcome everybody! You can stop that. I'm in Cape Town here, and I live in Cape Town. I'm known as Marge, large, and in charge. Born and bred and overfed on the Cape Flats, where I went to school and where I was taught that the European settlers, you know, the first boat people, they discovered this land. We were taught to revere them, celebrate them, public holidays in their honor. It was Vanderlib's Day. It was Settlers' Day, Founders' Day, and at the same time, we were taught to be ashamed of our local ancestors. We were called criminals, lazy, savages. In fact, many Cape Townians still today are in denial of their links to slavery and the indigenous people of the Cape. I only want to remember the European heritage. Let me tell you a story. My Auntie Dora, darker than me. Auntie Dora in the 70s was busy with her family tree. With the surname like Geldenhuys, we had to be Dutch. So, she's busy sorting out the family tree, we must and the next thing she discovered, we've got some family out in Kleinmond. It's a small fishing village. They were blonde, blue-eyed, and white. Oh, she was excited. Oh, she got a geleentheid and went out there to meet them, and they were blonde, blue-eyed, white, and drunk, and dirty, and very poor. Well, that was the end of our family tree. Boom. So let me take you back to a time in history when our ancestors were proud. When they would welcome you, Hanga! To Cape of Storms, or with the clouds banner, here at the foot of Table Mountain, they called Hurikwa. Say it! Listen. It's where it all began. break. So anyway, way back, and for many centuries, this piece of land was occupied by the indigenous people of the Cape, Khoi and the San. People call them Khoi San, so it's generic. Everything is just put together today, but people were different. And what I've learned was that San were small groups of hunter-gatherers who lived in the veld, lived off the sea. They didn't have animals and they didn't plant things. And because they were shy and retiring, these Dutch settlers called them Bushmen. A Khoi, meaning men of men, taller in stature. They had vast herds of cattle and sheep, and they trekked all along as the rains would go and the green grass would come. Oh, it was a lovely life. It was the best life. Because they made a stuttering sound when they spoke, the Dutch settlers called them Hottentot. They became Hottentot, and afterwards Hottentot. But of course, when they looked in the distance, they couldn't differentiate between the Khoi and the San. They just called him strandhoppers, you know?
Yeah.
Just one line. Much later, the Nguni came down from Central and East Africa to settle down in the south. And of course, continuing to label people, these new settlers who were darker skinned were called blacks and Bantu, because the Dutch were just giving labels as you go along. But not long before the Nguni settled here, one fine day in 1652, a Dutch commander sailed into the bay with his men. Our ancestors looked, one look and said, "Pi kong kak." They were sent by the Dutch East India Company to build a fort and a vegetable garden for passing ships. And so, as they say in the classics, the Dutch came here to build a refreshment station. And now we're sitting with the Rainbow Nation. Stop. So many European ships had come here before, but this was the first time that they took possession of the Cape Peninsula, changing the course of our history forever, despite blustering southeasterly wind. As wind so fine, so say no fine. Hey, bye, bye, just till the time was past. Come on, hey, bye, bye, hey, bye, bye, down. Hey, bye, bye, Hana, Sumatera, Maka. Stara, where the club cheese. The green falls, the bone, and the little cheese. And it's Baba, so my Monaca. Bookie and the base to come. Now the locals who welcomed these strangers to the land said, "We get paid. Take them up for it." Oh, no. We're not going to do any gardens and not going to build a fort or a castle. Never. So the Dutch East India Company had to import labor. And how would they do that? They captured people in foreign countries, women, children, political dissidents, priests, teachers, professionals, artisans, captured them and forced them into slavery here at the Cape. The first of many slaves, we must never forget, came from Angola, Guinea, Mozambique, Tanganyika at the time, Tanzania today, and then Mauritius, then Madagascar, and then it was China, India, the Indonesian basin, and so on. Snatched away from their families, their friends, and their familiar surroundings. And they're brought here in crude boats as human cargo, never to see their loved ones again. My trane die roer jou bokkie, my trane die roer jou bokkie, is daar waar die son en die maan ondergaan, bokkie het tot huis toe gaan. Again, one more time, and here we go. My trane die roer jou bokkie, my trane die roer jou bokkie, is daar waar die son en die maan ondergaan, bokkie en moet huis toe gaan. Beautiful! But I must remember those were the foreigners. Now, what about the locals? They were systematically robbed of their livelihood and their grazing land, and after many years of resistance, forced into slavery as well. Stripped of their dignity, their identity, given new names. Names where they came from, names of in the Bible. Even names of the month that they sold on auction. And I'm sure this is the one song. You know the words. Woo! Here we go. And then we break and then we fix it up again. Daar kom het in, my broer. January, February, March, April, May, June, July. January, February, March, April, May, June, July. August, September, October, November, December. August, September, October, November, December. January, February, March, April, May, June, July. Wonderful! And remember, they were not allowed to practice their religion, denied all forms of education, and forced to speak only Dutch. Well, a new language had to evolve, known today as Afrikaans. And the first recorded Afrikaans you're going to find not at the Taal Museum, but at the Boerkaap Museum, where a slave was banished to Robben Island, and he translated from the Quran, passages from the Quran, from Arabic to Afrikaans. That's the first recording. So by now, there are many ships laying in Table Bay. Lots of them. And the population is growing. The jailbirds from Java, you know, and just criminals from China, you know, from all over. They were just, ooh, yeah, and then on one of these big ships that came here, they were the party types. It was an American ship, party types, and they were. And the locals loved that. Oh yes, of course, we loved that. We're partying it up. The locals loved it so much, they wrote a song about that ship. And that song kan hier in die FAK bundels vind vandag, because it's as if they wrote it themselves. Daar komt die Alibaba, die Alibaba, die komt voor het zee. Daar komt die Alibaba, servitude, uncertainty. Ooh, you don't know where you stand. You don't know what the boss is going to do tomorrow. They were frustrated. They worked manual labor 24/7. The city of Cape Town was built on slavery. In fact, the entire Western Cape economy was built on slavery. It was the farms, the winelands, hello, everything that makes money today. The fishing industry, slavery. The foundation was on slavery, and you must remember, there was no plumbing at the time. No plumbing, no underground plumbing. So your job could be every day, long pole, at the end of the pole, 2 buckets of the fair madam and master and children's poo. You must take down to the sea and dump it. There's no plumbing. Nobody's going to dig a hole. And then they come back with the empty spoons and they wait, and then they must take it down again. Well, today we call that the waterfront. Oh, yeah. And recently we sold it to Dubai, causing another stink. But while the women were cooking up a storm in the man's kitchen, they were the ones who taught us a sexy, sensational, spicy cuisine of the East. They were the ones who taught us to make a wide range of fabulous dishes for a party and how to overcater. And our party would look like this. We could cook 3 pots of soup, a whole sheep's head, chicken feet, soaked in brine, salted meat, in our father sheep, and a 6-bottle can of wine. Bubwati and Susati, so pleasant and mighty, and there was more to come. Malva pudding, melted in for sisters, and a bottle of Vanderham. Ik loop hier daar voor een uur of 3. Ontmoet ik voor Galima in die Saudi-Arabie. Sy het een mantie om haar skoon met een skoon gekrapte biestapoot. Biestapoot is gegraaf. Die lekkerste kosies van die dag. Afvaltjes, haslagjes, en as gehaal by die slagterpaal. Soort jy dit met tamatie, dan sal jy nooit jou mond afdoen. Ek sê nou biestapoot is gegraaf. Die lekkerste kosies van die Now look, I don't want to delve too deeply into this issue, but we must admit, they clearly didn't bring a lot of women with them, did they? So, of course they had to turn to the local women. And to gain her freedom, slave women would often have sexual relations with her masters, bearing children. Some lived together, some got married, some just But while the authorities turned a blind eye to this dear mekaar slapery, if the madam was caught with a ouchie from the plaas, dan is haar moeilijkheid. In fact, they would be severely punished. But if she said rape, I was rape, then she goes free and gets a much lighter sentence. So let me tell you, that law apparently stood in the early apartheid regimes. Can you go like us now? One. Asirci ani, vadale ani, vadale ani, vadale. Zolang asirci ani, vadale. Belum mencintai aneh. Vol, 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 menirang. woman gave birth to a child of color. She would convince her husband that while she was pregnant, she was frightened by a Hottentot. Maar mijn vrouw, wat is dit in hemelsnaam? Oh, maar mijn lieve echtgenote, geloof mij. Tijdens mijn zwangerschap ben ik geschrokken met de Hottentot, geloof. Wat? Zoals je mijne lief, als je jou lief, als je aan de man zijn lijf die als je mijne lief, als je jou lief, als je aan de man zijn lijf die als je jy kan van die mas trek, maar wat wil jy nog strek? Zolang as ek in die Charlie leraar lyk en net so jy. After many years of fighting and slaves were revolting throughout the world, you see, in slavery swept the world. Slaves, people were owning people. Owning people, they owned animals and cars and stuff. So there was revolutions throughout the world. And the people called the abolitionists who fought for them to be free, and they eventually started. Freedom! So still today.
Yes,
Dancing and singing down the streets of Cape Town. The Cape Town minstrel carnival got club sound. To kick in the new year in New York. People coming dressed with fabulous colors and clothes and makeup and all. And the party does not stop. Ay, ay, ya, ooh, ay, ay, ya, ooh, ay, ay, ya, as a New York. Ay, ay, ya, ooh, ay, ay, ya, ooh, ay, ay, ya, as a New York. En ons is teermaka, my bonkie man precies de zonnecykel. As a New York. En ons is teermaka, my bonkie man precies de zonnecykel. Goema, 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 dans met mij. Descendants of the Khoi and the San. Descendants of the people from Africa, rest of Africa who traveled down. Descendants of the people from the East and the Indian Basin. And of course descendants of the early European settlers. All formed part of this Creole, Mengelmoes. The apartheid government just said, colored. Just to give them a name. And of course, it was act. They did not classify this group of people. They categorized this group of people. So it would be Cape color, Cape Malay color, Hurricane color, Namakwa color. If they didn't know how to box you, other color. Imagine! Oh my God! Excuse me, can the other colors please stand? A highly controversial term for what I call the original Rainbow Nation. Us a Cape Flintstone. Yeah, baby, it's a Cape Flintstone. Oh, Stanley, Wiley, Vanilla, and Baloo. There's a Cape Flintstone. still live below the green line. You know, there's also businesses. We are in parliament. We are doctors. We are lawyers. We are judges. We are leaders. We are dealers. And our poetic language, our culinary delights, and our architectural landmarks form an integral part of this beautiful city of Cape Town, here at the foot of the Murikwaho, where it all began. You've heard the tale of our mother city, of diversity, of hopes and dreams and vast histories of how it all began. They say we should celebrate our ancestors and embrace minorities. They tell us to reclaim our identity. We should be proud to say we are. Yes, we are. How do you know where you want to go? Where you don't know where you're from. On the coast of Table Mountain, that's where our ancestors still roam. How do you know where you want to go? Now that you know where you come from. 'Cause on the slopes of the that's where our ancestors today still roam. Thank you, Dagi, for sitting around. Thank you. You are amazing. You're long as a mice, so let's enjoy. You're beautiful. You want to say a few words?
No.
It's okay. Put a shot. Can you say a shot?
Thank you. Hey, Ganga.
Hey, Ganga. And how must I say? What must I say? Pleasure or welcome? What must I say?
Hey, Ganga is fire Ganga.
Donkey.
Yeah.
And if I say pleasure?
Yeah, pleasure at kite school.
Uno? Kite school?
Thank you.
Oh, pleasure. Thank you very much. You were amazing. Sorry, somebody wants to say. Yes, sir. Uncle Henry wants to say something. He's my Facebook friend.
Yes.
Just hold on, people. Would you like to come to the front, please? Thank you. Even dancing, sit amongst your beautiful women. And so stay where you are.
Okay. I'm not so sure, but I've been asked that all the leadership of the Khoi and the groups stay behind, that we just want to discuss a few issues. But before we go that particular way, I've been to PE and they had a very, very lovely song. And I'm not a singer, but the words are, my mother was a Khoi son, my father was a Khoi son, therefore I'm an activist.
Yes.
My mother was a Khoi son, my father was a Khoi son, therefore I am an activist.
Oh, it sounds good. Maar hij zong, dat is lekker. Laat ons kijken wat het kan doen. Laat ons kijken wat het kan doen. Ik weet niet hoe gaan doen, maar ik ga het anders sturen maken. My mother was a Khoi son, my father was a Khoi son. That's why I'm an activist. My mother was a Khoi son, my father was a Khoi son. That's why I'm an activist. I'm an activist. I'm an activist. Ja, wat skrik myself.